This lesson is find slope of linear function. The goal is to find slope of a linear function. What you need to understand by the end of this lesson is that the slope of any non-vertical line is the ratio of the change in the y-axis to the change in the x-axis of any 2 points on that line. We also call this rise over run. So here are some of the formulas, or here are the formulas that you will see. There's our vertical change, which is the rise, over the horizontal change, which is the run. It's also called y sub 2 minus y sub 1. That's the difference. And there's the x sub 2 minus x sub 1. That's the difference in our x values. And the change in x cannot be 0. That's why they call it a non-vertical line. A non-vertical line where the change is 0 has an undefined slope. So as long as there is a change in the x value, there is a slope in the line, whether it's positive or negative. Now, if you've had problems deciding whether slope is positive or negative, or you have problems remembering how to set this up, I'm going to show you a really easy way how to do it. If you have always been able to do this on your own, you continue using the way that you've always done it, and just solve for the slope the way you've always solved it. But if you haven't been able to solve this before, listen to how I'm going to explain it to you. It's really pretty easy. Okay, when you're looking at a graph, here's our rise. It's the vertical change. And there is the horizontal change. That's our run. So this is our top number. Our ratio, remember, is a fraction. So there's our top number. It's the change in y over the change in x. Rise over run. And when you pick your 2 points, they must be where an x and y line cross. Also, when an equation is written in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b, slope is the m part of the equation. The number sitting directly in front of the x is your slope, whether it's positive or negative. Okay, here's a graph. They want to know what the slope is. So the first thing I need to do is find 2 places where the points are directly on the line. So I have one point right here at 0, 30, and another point right here at 40, 60. So I'm going to make a fraction where my first, or my top number, is the change. Now notice that I'm counting by tens here, in my rise, or my vertical change, or the change in y. So it's 10, 20, 30. So my top number is 30. And my bottom number is going to be the change in the y value, or the x value. So I'm also counting by 10, so it's 10, 20, 30, 40. And when I simplify that, I get 3/4. My line is going up and to the right, so that's a positive slope. The slope of this line is 3/4. Here's another kind of problem that you'll see. It says find the slope of the line y equals negative 3/4 x minus 1. Again, I said if you had it in slope-intercept form, the number sitting directly in front of the x, or m, was your slope. Well, the number sitting directly in front of the x is negative 3/4. So that's your slope. So all you have to do for the slope of this line, slope is negative 3/4. All right, here's an example of finding slope when you have 2 points. If you know how to do this using any of the formulas that I showed you earlier, go right ahead and use them and ignore the rest of what I'm going to say. If you have always had problems finding slope any other way, listen to how I do this and see if you can find slope a little bit easier to find the way I'm going to show you. Alright, the first thing I want you to do is we are going to take the x or the y values and subtract them. You just take the bigger number, subtract the little number. So the first number I have, the bigger number I have is 83, and I'm going to subtract 19. That's my y's. On my x's, my bigger number is 80, my smaller number is 60. That's my x values. Now I'm just going to subtract those, and I have on my x's, I have 20, and on my y's, I have 64. Alright, so I'm going to make a fraction out of that. The y's, the change in y's go on top. So I have 64 over 20. Now I need to reduce that. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm just going to divide these in half. I don't have my calculator with me, so I know 32 over 10 and half again is 16 over 5. And that's all the farther I have to go. I don't have to change this into a mixed number. I can leave it as an improper fraction. But I need to know, is this a positive or a negative slope? Here's how you tell. I'm going to start, it doesn't matter whether I do x's first or y's first, but I'm going to always start with this first point. I look at my number x. I start at 60 and I go to 80. I'm going up in value. From 60 to 80, I'm going to a bigger number. Then I go and look at my y's. From 83 to 19, I'm going down in value. So I went up on my x's, down on my y's. If they're going in two different directions, slope is negative. So one went up, one went down. That means negative slope. So my answer for the slope is negative 16/5. If the changes in both of them were both positive or both negative, then slope is positive. So you want to write this somewhere in your notes. That if one of the numbers is going up and the other one's going down, or the change is going up, the change is going down, you have a negative slope. If they're both going up or they're both going down, the slope is positive. Your practice problem 1. Line T passes through points 3, 14 and 6, 6. Line U is parallel to line T. What is the slope of line U? All right? Find your slope the same way that I showed you, or however you calculate it. When you have slopes that are parallel, the slopes are exactly the same. So when you find the slope of line T, line U has the same exact slope. Practice 2. Look at this graph and find the slope. Practice 3. Find the slope of the line that passes through point 76 and 10, 5. Practice 4. Find the slope of the line y equals 1/3 x plus 1. Alright, line G has a slope of 8/7. Line H is perpendicular to G. What is the slope of H? Right? Earlier in the video, I told you that if lines are parallel, they have the same slope. If lines are perpendicular, slopes are opposite signs, and inverse numbers. So if I have a slope of 8/7, perpendicular lines, I would invert the numbers, would become 7/8, and it would have opposite signs. So a line perpendicular to that one would have a slope of negative 7/8. Practice 5. Line C passes through points 17,1 and 86,87. Line D is perpendicular to C. What is the slope of line D? And practice 6, the equation of line C is y equals 17/15 x minus 15. Line D is parallel to line C. What is the slope of line D? All right, where are you on the scale of understanding of finding slope? Mark on your goal sheet 1, 2, 3, 4. You should have already had your 6 practice questions checked. That's all for this lesson. Bye.